Hello, good morning, and welcome to Limitless, the show that brings you love and inspiration on a Saturday morning. Today, I'll be talking to Marcia Dixon, MBE, who is one of the most well-known PR specialists within Britain's Black church community. She's also a columnist for The Voice, Britain's best-selling Black newspaper, and Keep the Faith, Britain's leading magazine about the Black faith community. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce my guest on the show, Marcia Dixon. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, Maria. Sorry. How are you
Maria.
doing? I hope you're well.
I'm fine, thank you. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Real
Pleasure
pleasure.
to be on your show with you.
Yeah. And you've been around for so long. People know you as somebody that represents them, as a voice for the Black community, and also one that discusses things that not everybody wants to talk about, areas that people don't want to necessarily venture into. And you've obviously released this new book, and we're going to talk about that later on. But first, I wanted to talk about you, find out about your life, how you started as a Christian, how you came into the church, and how you came into journalism as well. So tell me your fondest childhood memories, please.
My fondest child, you're taking me way back, way back. What do I remember of my childhood? I do remember I used to go to a Sunday school that's a 2-minute walk from my house. So I always, my mum used to buy me special clothes to go to Sunday school. Yeah. And I just remember putting them on and just feeling really girly because they had like a big skirt and twirling around, really happy in my little dress. And my Sunday school teacher, who was an English lady in a wheelchair, she really loved us children. I just remember her having a really deep love for Jesus and a really deep love for us as children. What else can I remember? The food, Caribbean food, the rice and peas, the oxtail curry chicken. I love food, so I remember that from my childhood. As well, and just enjoying going to school, dreaming about what I would be when I grew up, and just the general things about being a child living in London, being a Black child. I didn't think I was poor, didn't know racism exists, because obviously I'm 4, 5, and 6. I'm just enjoying my life, feeling quite loved and protected in my family.
Yeah. Now, I know the community was a big thing for people who were in England at that time. Of course, we know about the Windrush. We know about all of that and the need for people to have community. Did you always know that you wanted to write, wanted to be an editor, or wanted to be an author? Did you always have that dream? What were your ambitions?
My ambition when I was younger was really to be a social worker. Being a journalist was like a distant dream, but really it was to be a social worker. I first started off wanting to be a nurse, and then it went on to being a social worker. So when I went and studied for my degree at South Bank University, I actually studied social sciences with that in view. But what happened for me was that whilst I was at university, I had a part-time job at The Voice as a receptionist.
Right.
And just to kind of add to my grant that I received that we used to get at those times. We didn't get loans, we got grants. And what happened was that the person who was doing the Soul Stirrings page, I no longer work for The Voice. I left just after the pandemic. But the person who was doing The Voice before me, she left to go and work. She didn't leave, she was promoted to a different department. And a good friend of mine, who was also responsible for the Soul Stirrings page, was given the responsibility to find somebody to do the page. And she said to me, "Oh, who's going to do the page? Who do you think should do the page?" And I said, "Oh, I can." And that's how it started. The opportunity came. I had no experience of journalism, but I just thought it was an opportunity that I should take. And that was when I'm not going to say how old I was 5, but that was when I was in my 20s. And I wrote the column for over 3 decades, but I loved writing about gospel music.
Yeah, yeah. And, we all were schooled by that as such. We all read it. We all knew about what you were doing. And we all sort of, we silently supported you because, of course, it was a voice that was out there for a certain generation of people to get to know what music is out there, what social activity was happening, what's the word on the street as such. Tell me, with your Christian walk now, living in a Britain that's not exactly the same as the Britain that we have now, with your Christian walk. How did you personally come to God? Was there like a supernatural experience, or was it just the fact that you grew up in church, you were always a Christian, or did you have a supernatural encounter yourself that brought you to a closer faith, with God?
Well, what happened for me was that I went to Sunday school. Most Caribbean people, parents sent their kids to Sunday school. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's the same for the African community as well. You know, God is in us. We can't help it. Do you understand me? We want our children to be taught in the ways of God. And when
Spiritual
I,
people.
pardon?
Spiritual people.
Yeah, that's right. And
Yeah.
when I became a teenager, don't ask me why, I came to the conclusion that God didn't exist. You know, like I'm young, just thinking, and I'm just thinking, he doesn't really exist. And then what happened at the age of 15, my brother, who was a Christian at the time, he invited me to a youth crusade. They were called crusades then. They wouldn't be called that now. I don't think it's politically correct. They'd be called outreaches. And when I went there, the preacher, who was an American, can't remember his name, preached a message of salvation. And he got us to say the sinner's prayer. And when I said the sinner's prayer, I was too frightened to go up to the front. But when I said the sinner's prayer, I felt like a totally new person. I felt like I'd been washed of my sins, and I felt light and happy, and I just felt totally different.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the start of my walk with the Lord at the age of 15.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so let's talk a little bit now about some of the things that you've done in your life, some of the doors that you've opened as such. You know, of course, in this particular case, in fact, it's probably a good time to talk about that book that you've written, because it is opening doors. It is tackling issues that people don't actually talk about much, and it's, the book on singleness. So let's talk about that now. I think, what is it that inspired you to write that book, and tell us what kind of effect it's actually had within the Christian community since then?
Okay, I was inspired to write that book by a nagging friend who kept saying to me, Marcia, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And I'd been putting it off. And then I thought, yeah, I should write a book. But then I decided that what I wanted to do was to actually write an anthology. I was inspired by a lady called Claudine Reid, who during the lockdown had produced an anthology of people who attended her online women's ministry platform. And so I thought it was a really, really good idea. And I just thought, and also as well, I have lots of discussions on my social media about singleness, about relationships, about marriage. And I just thought, let me kind of tackle that issue in this book, because I know that there's a lot of single women in our churches. They have lots of experiences, lots of views, etc. But they have never seen their experiences articulated in a book. So let me collate a book with various aspects of the single life. So that's where my inspiration came from. I believe that God led me to the people who I invited to be part of the book. So it's authors ranging from millennials up until more mature people, just talking about a wide range of things like online dating, divorce, dealing with sexual temptation, waiting on God for a partner, the journey to self-care. And I've also got a couple of men writing about sharing their views. So I've got one from a pastor sharing what he did to encourage more marriages within the church. And I've also got a man who runs a singles ministry talking about what men want from the women that they choose to be their wives.
And so when you decided to embark on this, were there any expectations that you had, like things that you wanted to see changed? Was there an actual aim that you wanted to see achieved?
I think my main aim was really for women to, because I believe that the majority of people that are really affected by the issue are women. I really wanted the women who read the book to see themselves in the pages. I wanted the experience written about in the book to really resonate with them. And those that have really disappointed or discouraged because of their singleness, I wanted them to experience the healing power of God from what they'd actually written. That was that was my key aim. So when the book was actually finished, I cried. And I cried because I believed that there would be women who would really be ministered to by the book. Because as you said, it's an issue that's not really spoken about. There's a lot of women that are hurting because they wanted to get married and it didn't happen. And I just really wanted this book to be their voice, this book to kind of give them some solutions to what they were experiencing, and also to give them hope, give them healing if they were discouraged, disappointed, etc. And let them know that there's things that can be done to change their situation, even if it's just a mindset change.
Yes, yes. Because we know that the devil works in secrecy. And a lot of the time there's this shame and this sense of, one isn't good enough, that I would imagine would be happening within people who are single, or people who fall out of place within a community in any way at all, and any kind of expectation that hasn't been met. But to hear people within the authors, the different voices within this book, coming out and speaking about that, it kind of gives everyone else who might be going through that the right to feel something, you know what I mean? To actually be able to voice it and say, well, actually, this is true. I feel it. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I was at a women's conference today, and there was a woman there, and I had brought some books along. I actually gave some away in a competition. And she said, oh, I've got that book. And I said, how did you find it? And she said, some of the stories really resonated with me. And that's really what I want to hear, that the stories resonate with people and kind of bring some kind of hope, healing, understanding, or just the knowledge to know that they are not alone.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. So their thoughts and their insecurities and their issues, they can be able to say, you know what, there's nothing wrong with me. That kind of thing.
Oh, definitely. You need to say that as a Christian woman. Sometimes you have to look in the mirror and say, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. You do have to say that to yourself, that there's nothing wrong with me. I am made in the image of God, my Father. Amen. Hallelujah.
Amen. Amen. And that's the thing, we read it in the Bible. We know that we're supposed to make these confessions and to believe and have faith, irrespective of what we see. But there are people who do need, all of us at some point need something to hold on to and sink our teeth into, because the voices that you're going to be hearing is actually, you're not what you say you are. You're like, I am. You're not.
Exactly. Exactly. You have to speak it in faith that we are going to be what God says we are going to be, and who we are as well.
Yeah. I must say, I'm so interested in some of the titles. You've got, even in the one that I thought, what was, can you make jollof rice?
Okay.
Can you?
I thought it would be good because it's most of the writers are from the Caribbean background. I just thought it would be good to have some African voices, because maybe the experience of singleness in the African church is a little bit different. And Ola Newby, who wrote that chapter, she wrote from the perspective of a mature single. So she wasn't a young single, and just writing about how she felt as a mature single, which I found really quite fascinating, actually.
Yeah. So in this journey of all this wealth of knowledge and, just all within one book that having the privilege to be able to edit and bring together, what did you get from it? What was God saying to you through the voices? What were you receiving?
I don't know if I was actually receiving anything. I just feel that the voices were kind of articulating maybe some of my own experiences, some of how I've felt, some of what people have shared with me in terms of how they feel about singleness. So it wasn't like I didn't like have an epiphany or anything like that. I was just happy to actually have a book that articulated some of the discussions that I've been having on social media about the issue. And like I said before, just kind of giving voice to the experiences that I know that lots of single women had. When I had my launch for the book, I had 200 women online. That is a lot of people. So that says to me that this issue is a key issue for women in our community. And I just recently did a column for Woman Alive, a Christian magazine. And the headline is, and it's based on some statistics that we found, 65% of Caribbean women are single, which is a lot of women. And so it's an issue in this regard. As Christians, we want our lives to be fruitful. We want our lives to be spiritually fruitful, but also as well, you know, the whole thing about fruit of the womb is kind of quite an important thing. I know we play it down, but if we do not reproduce as a human race, we disappear. Yes. So if we have a sector of our community that are Christians, that follow God, that uses the whole concept of marriage to illustrate his relationship with us as humanity, and if his daughters are not experiencing marriage, then I really strongly believe that we should be a little concerned, particularly if those women do want to get married. If they don't, it doesn't really matter. But we're here to kind of give life and give birth to the next generation, in my personal humble opinion. And when a vast number of a communities, that's not happening, and they're Christians as well, I personally think that there's a little bit of a problem.
Yes, it opens. There are aspects where it does open to temptation as well. I mean, you will find, because our bodies are made in a sexual way, so therefore people, you know, for reproduction. So if you're not actually doing that, then there's something wrong. What do you think could be done? Because traditionally, well, it's not even traditionally, it's just what we've seen generally. It's wrong, but we do tend to find there's more women in the churches. You go into a church from the time I was young till now, it's always been highly, you know, populated by women. And then, of course, you see a man will come, and then everyone's after that one.
I know we're all texting our friends saying, "Oh, did you see that man who came into? Did you see that man coming into the church? Oh my God, he's sitting in the third row. He's sitting." No, I'm joking.
Exactly. and then before you blink, someone's already got him, and the ring is probably. And everybody's respectful again. What could be done? What could be done?
Well, the thing about when I put the book together is that I was really wanted it to be also solution focused. So I think it's important that you voice your concerns, but I also feel that people want solutions. And there's a number of chapters. There's a chapter that's been written by a woman who runs a singles ministry. And what was really fascinating about that was that amidst all the various things that the singles ministry did, which was like going on retreats, having a prayer focus to help build up the spiritual life of singles, some of the things that they did actually inadvertently led to people coming together and getting married. One of the things that they did do was to actually pray for men. They had a set time, I think it was about either 3 or a 6 month period, where they prayed specifically for men to get saved, for men to come in the church, for God to heal them, etc. And as a result of doing that, they saw marriages. There's also as well the last chapter, which is called The Curse of Enforced Singleness. That is written by a pastor, and it's a pastor who had a deep concern for the women in his church, who he felt that because they were Christians, it was unlikely that they would find somebody because of what you said earlier, the male-female ratio in the church. So he decided, I want to see my women in my church get married. And what he decided to do was that he decided to start praying into the issue first and foremost. Praying into the issue, started teaching about relationships, etc. And then he started joining forces with other churches, bringing people together to socialize. And he saw the number of marriages in his church go from 2 a year to 8 a year. There's things that we can do. We serve the living God. You know, if whatever we seek him for, he can give an answer to situations that we find ourselves in. And one of the other things that the Pastor Dave Daniels wrote in his channel, sorry, I'm getting it. I'm thinking of LCBN. One of the things he wrote in the chapter was that as churches, we need to be evangelizing. We need to also be evangelizing men. And if we've got a situation where there's not a lot of men in our churches, church leaders need to ask why. We want our churches to be balanced. You know, it's good that women are spiritual, they love God, etc. But we want the balance. We want that male energy to come along with the feminine energy, to not only about relationships, but men and women working together to build the children of God.
Yes, I like what you said
Kingdom of
about
God,
what that
not the
pastor said.
children of God, the kingdom of God.
Yeah, most definitely. I like what he's doing because, of course, if a pastor, it's like if the leader of any organization is going in one direction, but their lifestyle is not reflective on their people, then there's a problem.
Yeah,
I.e., if the pastor's the only one that's the millionaire and no one else is rich, there's a
exactly.
problem. If the pastor's married and happy and no one else is in a happy marriage, there's a problem.
There
They
is a
have to
problem.
reflect. What was that?
I said, definitely. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, most definitely. They have to be reflecting on the actual leader because it's a one body. They're one people, and there should be a resemblance. And I like what he was actually doing and recognizing there's a problem. But far too often, as you already know, and this is why we're in this predicament in the first place, it's forgotten, and the spiritual aspect is promoted, and so women are like, oh, I mean, I know for sure that there are a number of women that will think, oh no, I'm spiritual. I come to
No, but
serve the
it's
Lord.
true.
And then at some point it's a case of, well, I'm not married, but you didn't realize that you also had to make yourself appealing as well. You cannot just go to the church, you know what I mean? And yes, you're serving God, but you're also a woman as well. And the reason why he's made you attractive is to attract that man, that both of you will come together as one. Not to say every man that comes, because I'm being spiritual, go away, I'm too spiritual.
I
Do you know
know.
what I mean?
I remember there was a kind of time where women felt really kind of, and I'm talking for my generation, that, they didn't like to say that they wanted to get married. It was like
Mm,
it was like a kind of taboo, like you was being too fleshy if you
yeah,
actually admitted that, yes, I would like to get married. I
yeah.
mean, we live in a kind of a society where anything goes sexually. To have Christian women who are saying, I would like to be married, that is a good thing. That's something to be celebrated. But yeah, I remember those days. And even sometimes now you talk to some women, oh no, I don't want to get married, I just want to serve the Lord. Nothing wrong with serving the Lord, nothing wrong with being single. But if
Yes.
you want to get married, I think it's important to be honest about that and not to feel bad about it. If somebody was to say, would you like to be president? And the person said yes, we'd all be rejoicing, because we would think that's a good thing for you to aim for.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we live in a society where in some quarters, marriage is not possible, not popular. In terms of for the Christian community, it will always be popular, because it's what God has designed for us as
Mm.
Christians, how we kind of should relate to each other if we want that intimacy with somebody of the opposite sex. So we should never be ashamed to say that we want to get married. It's designed by God. After he finished creating Adam and Eve, he brought them together and told them to go forth and multiply. It's a God-blessed relationship. So we shouldn't be surprised at having desires to experience that for ourselves.
Most definitely. Yeah, because as you admit it and you can stop praying about it and you start thinking as a married woman, so shall it be. He gives you the desires of your hearts. So here it says there's another chapter by Chanel MacLean that I thought was interesting as well. And I'm glad that you've kept these books so balanced, making the most of the single life. I thought that was it's good that you added that in there as well, so that there is that understanding that, okay, yes, not married yet, not quite, but this, make the most of now. Now is also precious as well. Now is a good thing. And then will come. And you know what I mean? It's as though to say, there's nothing wrong with being single. I like that aspect as well. Was that one of the things that you were thinking when you add that in there, to try and celebrate people who are single as well?
I wanted the book to be balanced, because not
Yeah,
every single person is
yeah,
aspiring for marriage. They just want to enjoy their life. And I wanted that voice there. There's also the voice of somebody who talks about her journey to about self-care and her journey to spiritual healing. For
yes.
me, that was important as well. It's not always about, oh, I've got to be in a relationship, I want to be married. Sometimes, God calls us to focus on developing ourselves, being in relationship with him. So whatever healing, whatever forgiving we need to do, that can happen for us because we are focused on serving God, reading his word, praying, developing ourselves, etc. I think that's an important message to put forward as well as the other message about people sharing about how they feel about prolonged singleness or unwanted singleness.
Yes, most definitely. Wow, this is absolutely amazing. All of you out there, I would encourage you to go out and buy this book. Of course, follow Marcia Dixon as well. Follow her, go onto her website as well. But definitely go and get this book because, you know, I really, by looking at some of the titles, I like the fact that it's so balanced, Marcia. I really do. The fact that you've got stuff for everyone, and you've really touched on different by, you know, inviting so many experienced people, knowledgeable people, and people who have a voice and something to say to add to this the whole story as such. You know, the whole idea of singleness as to how do you handle it now? What issues would you be going through, and how, you know, what do men want, and bringing it like a, you know, a mixture of different kind of people. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much. What would be the next thing then? Because of course, this is quite a big enough subject as it is, but what would be the next step now? What should we be looking forward to beyond this book?
Well, I have started work on another book. It's going to be
Yeah.
an collection of essays again, and it's going to be called Black, Christian and Dating. And again, I'm getting different voices. I'm having a few more voices from pastors in this one. And I'm going to be getting them people to be talking about their experiences of dating and courting. So I'm going to have people that have been divorced, people that found have been using online dating to find a partner. I'm going to have pastoral perspectives. I'm going to have men talking about what it's like to be a man in the church and dating. I've got people talking about dating second time around, i.e. that they've been were married, their marriages ended, and they are now remarried. I want those kind of experiences as well. Yeah. And I'm really excited about this book because Christians still want directions in this world about what's the godly way to go about dating, what's the godly way to go about finding that extra, that special someone. How should I conduct myself in a dating relationship? When does dating move to courting, and what does that entail? How should I prepare myself for marriage? I'm going to cover all those things in this book, and then this is the second part of a trilogy, and after that I'm going to have Black, Christian and Married, where I'm going to invite Christians to talk about their experiences of marriage. That's the good, the bad and the ugly. I should really say the ugly, bad and the good. Leave the best till last.
Yes, most definitely. Oh, wow. I cannot wait for your books to come out and just sort of follow everything you're doing. Amazing. Thank you so very much for being an amazing and wonderful guest on the show and giving us some food for thought, giving us information that we would never have actually thought was something to pray about, something to acknowledge, something to be aware of. There are many people in the church that are going through these issues, and I believe that this kind of book will allow people out there to look out for them as such, pray for them, support them, and they don't become like a shadow that's forgotten and swept under the carpet. And you know what I mean? You don't even realize certain people are there because everyone is getting on with their life. But I think a book like this enables us not only to be aware of them, but to understand.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I've had such positive feedback about the book because people actually feel heard. They feel that their voice is out there and that people are getting to understand their experience of living a single life in the church as a Christian.
Yes, true. Thank you so very much. And until the next time, I'm hoping, obviously, when you get the next book, you'll be on the show again, telling us about that. So until the next time, it's goodbye for now.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about the book.
Thank you. Bye. Haven't we had an amazing time with Marcia Dixon, MBE? And of course, she is recognized by the Queen as something we didn't speak about, but yes, she definitely is. And she knows her stuff. So please do go and buy this book. Go and buy the book and enjoy reading it. And of course, you know, anything that you receive from this, You obviously see the website there. Go onto her website, send her a message, find her on social media, follow her, and tell her what you think of this book. Send a review. I'm sure she'll be pleased for that. And so, of course, this is me, Maria Bond, saying goodbye and God bless you, and keep on living under an atmosphere of glory. Goodbye.